process. So that's why it's very difficult to, in practical terms, to manufacture this on mass scale unless you know what you're doing. And transportation and storage, which is a big drawback of these vaccines, especially in countries like India. So they would not be stable for that long unless you have proper transportation and storage. So if the ice melts and they are in room temperature for 2-3 days, they will be useless. So that's a big problem with these vaccines. And we'll skip that. Then you can also have inactivated or killed vaccine. Now what you do is you take the pathogen, it's not live, you kill it. You kill it by heating it, or you put it treating with chemicals, or so that the pathogen is dead, it cannot multiply. And of course the advantage is very safe, because even if you are immunosuppressed, it's a dead pathogen, it's not going to cause disease. They are cheap. It's cheap to manufacture, and they are very stable because it's a dead pathogen. It does not have to be stored at certain temperatures. So that's an advantage. But the disadvantage is that is the boosters, because it is a dead pathogen. It is not that effective in training your immune system. So you need to give it more frequently, like every 3 months you have to come, or not, I'm just giving a number, but and take an injection or whatever, which is again result in poor patient compliance. And these vaccines are always needed to be injected. You cannot develop inactivated vaccine which will be given orally. It's not possible. So if you are developing this vaccine, it has to be injected. Again, that is a disadvantage for this approach. But as I said, if you have a disease like HIV, anything that works is good, or malaria, anything that works is good at this stage. Okay, so that's the disadvantage. And then there are, I'll just skip that, recombinant antigen vaccines, where you instead of taking the whole organism, what you do is you just identify a factor in the organism which is important for causing the disease and generate a vaccine against the factor. So it's much more refined vaccine. And classical example is hepatitis B. So the vaccine which is against hepatitis B is not against the whole virus. It is against only one factor from that virus which is important for that virus to replicate. So your immune system is blocking that factor, and that leads to the killing of the virus, and that's how you are protected. The problem again, it needs a lot of genetic engineering because it requires generation of these proteins, recombinant proteins. So you have to take the gene from the virus, and in tissue culture you start making protein, and then those recombinant proteins are always expensive to manufacture. It's very high and costly proposition. But in diseases like hepatitis B, it's 100% protection, so it's worth it. If it is 100%, it's worth it, because long term you're going to save a lot of money. Because if patient gets hepatitis B, there are a lot of problems, hepatocellular carcinoma and all. And so it's better that if you know that this is 100% protection, you don't have problem even if the manufacturing costs are high, because long term you will save money and people will be willing to pay. Like you have a vaccine for HIV, a lot of people will be willing to pay even higher prices. Now, when you do all these vaccines, it's not sometimes enough just to inject this protein or bacteria to induce immune response. The immune system needs help from other molecules, and we call them adjuvants. Like these are nothing else but like chemicals which you put in that vaccine, so that those chemicals just help the immune system to get activated even better, and we call them adjuvants. And most common is the alum salt which they use in India. But there are all these new adjuvants which are available. So that's another area where there is a scope, like discovering adjuvants for vaccine purposes. And those could be non-specific molecules which are, as long as they are safe, and as long as they are activating your immune system along with your vaccine, that they will work. So adjuvants are necessary. Alone the vaccine may not always work, especially when they are heat-killed vaccines, because as I said, they are less potent. If it is a live vaccine, you may not need adjuvant, but with heat-killed you always need adjuvant to an additional help for immune system to do it. So the area what we work on mainly is the DNA vaccines. This is the third generation vaccines. Now the idea here is, instead of making the proteins and all these bacteria, you just identify, and I can take you just briefly through the process. So you identify a gene of interest in a pathogen, like let's say this factor X